For my case study project, I decided to title it Becoming a Positive Role Model. Through my experience at Key Kids, I have realized how important it is to form relationships with the students and be a positive role model for them. You never know if a child has support at home, friends to play with at school, or someone he or she can look up to. Therefore, I think it is our job to always be there for the kids and be a positive role model for each of them. To start this video, I'm going to tell you a little about me. Identity to me means how one determines what or who they are. I identify as a white Caucasian from the middle class. Growing up, I was your average kid who enjoyed playing house, dancing, singing, having lemonade stands, and playing with Barbies. In early elementary school, I was able to identify myself as a female. I suppose I identified myself as a girl due to the fact that I loved to play with Barbies, wore lots of dresses, and was always called a girl by my parents and teachers. However, it wasn't until later that I was able to identify my social class. When I was in the second grade, my parents got divorced, and within the next couple years, I matured fairly quickly, taking on more responsibilities within my family and becoming more independent. Around this time, I started realizing my family's social class. After basing my knowledge off of the size of our house, the jobs my parents had, and the clothing brands I wore, I decided to place my family somewhere within the middle class range. Now that I am more aware of the different genders, social classes, and backgrounds that a students can come from, I plan to make my future classroom very inclusive for all students. I plan to do this by having a variety of books in my classroom that I can expose students to a variety of cultures, backgrounds, and genders. I also plan to provide some school supplies at each table group within my classroom, along with having additional notebooks at my desk for students if needed. This way, if a student's family cannot afford school supplies, I will be able to provide some for that student. Next, I'm going to talk about my experience at Key Kids. The student I got the chance to form a relationship with over the past couple weeks at Goodview Elementary School was a white male student. For the purpose of this project, I will address him as Jason. Jason and I have the same racial identity. We are both Caucasian. However, Jason's gender identity is male and mine is female. After getting to know Jason over the past couple weeks, I placed his family in the lower middle class range. I was able to determine his family's social class due to the fact that his dad is a UPS driver. However, he did not mention his mom's job, so this made it difficult for me to place them on a specific social class marking. Jason also told me he has lived in Winona, Minnesota his whole life with his mom, dad, and brother. Jason and his brother are very close, almost like best friends. They always play together, and Jason follows his brother around a lot and copies everything he does. It is easy to tell that Jason looks up to his older brother and wants to be just like him. Jason's favorite things to do are basketball, kickball, play tag, and make paper airplanes. Once again, many of his interests are influenced by his older brother. Although Jason's family falls somewhere around the lower to middle class range, there are other students at Key Kids whose families fall within the poor or working class area. Therefore, I think it is important for us as future teachers to learn how to teach students that come from all different social classes. In the article, Strategies for Teaching Students in Poverty, it talks about different strategies teachers can incorporate into their classroom to engage students from lower income families. For example, it talked about incorporating music and art into the classroom as a form of learning because some lower income families cannot afford extracurricular activities like those, and by having them in the classroom, the child is still able to explore their creativity, learn, and be more engaged. Another connection I made from my Key Kids experience and the material we learned in class was the concept about gender identity. Jason tends to show off and try to prove his masculinity to his brother and friends. I found this interesting because he is always seeking for praise or approval from his friends or other adults. This leads me to believe that since Jason identifies himself as a boy, he acts as though he needs to prove it by acting like one. Through my self-reflections and time spent at Key Kids, I have realized how different and unique one child is from another. By forming relationships with the students and getting to know each of them at a personal and deeper level, It helps to determine which method of teaching, discipline, and encouragement works best for the students. As a future teacher, I think it is important to form these relationships to understand how to help each child succeed. For example, after getting to know Jason, I soon became aware that he looks for affirmation and positive encouragement for him to maintain good behavior. However, Liam, a different student at Key Kids, tends to change his behavior best when told what will happen if the bad behavior continues. He does not seem to respond to affirmation like Jason does. For the past 6 weeks, I have been volunteering at Goodview Elementary School for Key Kids. Since day one, the kids have been so welcoming and excited to get to play with all the volunteers. My favorite part about Key Kids was getting greeted with smiles and hugs every week. It always made my day to see the kids' faces light up when they saw all the volunteers and workers who were there to play with them that day. The majority of the Key Kids students at Goodview were white, but there were also some other races, such as Asian and African American students. I had the opportunity to form many relationships with a variety of kids of different ages, genders, and racial backgrounds. I think it is important for us to form relationships with the students and be a positive role model for them because a child may not have a relationship like that at home. One way I have been a positive role model for the students is to demonstrate good sportsmanship. For example, when we go outside, many of the boys, including Jason, love to play kickball. But sometimes some of the students get a little too competitive and think it's funny to trash talk or make fun of the other team. Jason is one of the students who will sometimes say rude comments about the other team they are playing against. However, he usually only makes these comments after his older brother does or when his brother is around. I think Jason does this as a way to show off or look tough in front of his brother. One way I step in to be a positive role model was to explain and demonstrate what it means and what it looks like to have good sportsmanship. By me modeling good sportsmanship and encouraging the other team, I am being a positive role model.